China wants to rewrite history to make everything within their current borders a historical part of China, and the UN is complicit in it, which isn't terribly surprising considering the amount of money China gives the UN. Welcome to China Uncensored, I'm Chris Chappell. The Chinese Communist Party wants to control everything. That includes the way history is told. Tiananmen Square massacre never happened. Uyghur genocide? What genocide? COVID came from China? Fake news. Xi Jinping collects ethot bathwater? Lies! Obviously, he'd rather dig into ethot leftover honey. How else does he have all those Chinese honey traps? The U.S. State Department's Global Engagement Center warns in a special report that China seeks to reshape the global information environment. It says Beijing uses false or biased information to promote positive views of the People's Republic of China and the Chinese Communist Party. At the same time, the PRC suppresses critical information that contradicts its desired narratives. The CCP, of course, dismisses the State Department's report as disinformation, saying that people are not blind in seeing the U.S. as an empire of lies. The CCP tries to sell this narrative to elites, journalists, and foreign governments. It uses everything from state-run media to social media influencers to spread its message internationally. But it doesn't stop there. It also uses official organizations like the United Nations. According to the Lowy Institute, the United Nations has become progressively more reliant on China's general contributions, and in turn, China has used a combination of levers to elevate its position within the UN system. One of the ways China has been elevating its position within the UN system is by influencing the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization, or UNESCO. And will you look at that, China is its top donor. That's why UNESCO is desperate to stay on China's good side. The UNESCO Director General went to Beijing last month and met Chinese leader Xi Jinping and his wife, along with other Chinese leaders. While she was there, the UNESCO website praised China's efforts to help disadvantaged girls thrive through education. You know, the country where it was illegal to have a brother or sister and there was massive sex-selective abortion of young girls? She also said UNESCO supports Xi in building a community with a shared future for humanity, particularly China's Belt and Road Initiative. You know, the one that is really helping developing countries with quality mega projects that are definitely not falling apart, you empire of lies. I'm not liking the sound of the shared future. But why is the CCP going after UNESCO, of all things? Oh, it's bad. And I'll tell you more after the break. Welcome back. The UN and its organizations are absolute suckers for Chinese money. And in exchange for a lot of it, the UN will push communist China's agendas. Like how UNESCO is rewriting history for China. You see, UNESCO is famous for its World Heritage List. Now, China is made up of dozens, perhaps hundreds of ethnic minorities, not just the majority Han. Here's a map of all the different languages spoken in China. And most of these areas haven't always been under Chinese control. But no. Any impressive work of culture or art in China is actually thanks to the Chinese Communist Party. They even have a law about it. It's called the Intangible Cultural Heritage Law, which specifies that the protection of heritage should strengthen cultural identification with the Chinese nation and should facilitate national cohesion, interethnic solidarity, and social harmony. You hear that, Uyghurs? In other words, the CCP pushes the narratives that everything is because of the Han people. It's called Han supremacy. Actually, officially, they call it ethnic identification. Since 1950, the Chinese government has identified various ethnic groups within its borders with the aim of integrating minorities into the Chinese national family. Here's an example. The old tea forest on Jingmai Mountain. It's a part of the Yunnan province, close to China's Southeast Asian neighbors. Yunnan was not truly under China's jurisdiction until the Ming Dynasty, but it just got added to the UNESCO World Heritage List. And it conveniently leaves out mention that for most of its history, it was not part of Han China. As one scholar put it, some Chinese scholars adopt a Han-centric view, marginalizing Yunnan's cultural dynamics and oversimplifying the process by which Yunnan was transformed from a frontier area to a province of China. They have ignored, deliberately or not, Southeast Asian and Indic connections and influences in Yunnan's development. For the World Heritage Changjiang Fossil Site in Yunnan Province, the nomination document explains how Changjiang had people living there but glosses over their culture and government, saying that the administrative regime began in the area when a Han general during the Han Dynasty entered the region. The document especially made a point of saying there were Han people in the region and talking about how Han culture developed there. There were similar descriptions made for other Yunnan World Heritage sites, like the old town of Lijiang and Honghe Hanai rice terraces. The way they tell it, even the mere presence of ethnic Han Chinese in Yunnan at any point in history makes the province a part of historical China. One common theme you'll notice among Chinese World Heritage nominations is how often they bring up the Han people, and how they insist that all minorities are Chinese. For example, Mogao Caves along the Silk Road in the province of Gansu. UNESCO puts emphasis on Han influence, and how all minorities are Chinese. Bringing up the various ethnicities that live in an area in a list also helps downplay the role of certain ethnic groups, such as the Uyghurs in Xinjiang. China's UNESCO nomination for the Tian Shan mountain range greatly downplayed the role Uyghurs played there. Historically, the area was part of a Uyghur empire, but in this 1,000-page report, guess how many times Uyghur comes up? Just twice. Both times, the Uyghurs appear as just one of many nomadic tribes who lived in the region. There was emphasis on how people of all Chinese nationalities have lived there, especially the Han. That document also describes accounts of Han transportation and military centers during the Han and Tang dynasties, and cites Han poets and a Han princess praising the Tian Shan Mountains. Honestly, China's so fixated on connecting everything to the Hans that they'd argue that Han Solo is actually Chinese. After all, his name is Han. Plus, he loves Tibet, and Tibet has belonged to China since ancient times. Speaking of Tibet, the nomination for the Tibetan Potala Palace also emphasizes how Tibetan minorities are just one of many living under Chinese rule. China and UNESCO would have everyone believe that the temple monastery was built in ancient China, and that the Dalai Lama's residence has architectural elements of the Han. When you read through the UNESCO descriptions, you'll also notice there's a pretty rosy view of relations between the Han Chinese and other ethnicities. For example, in 2012, China provided UNESCO official records of Tibet from the Yuan dynasty, when the Mongolians actually ruled China. It doesn't focus on that, though. Instead, it says how Yuan dynasty rulers were highly tolerant of the religion, political system, and culture of Tibet, which brought about relative stability and development with lasting impact on Tibet and the world today. And yet, the Tibetans weren't too happy when China, under Mao Zedong, invaded Tibet. There's a bunch more examples of this kind of Chinese narrative peddling. According to a professor at the University of London School of Oriental and African Studies, the government uses radical sensitivity in choosing which places, people, and practices to emphasize. But don't worry, UNESCO trusts them. Surely the Chinese Communist Party can be trusted to share historically accurate information. It's not like communists are known for rewriting history. Probably explains why UNESCO has been accused of being complicit in China's treatment of Uyghur heritage. Wow. The CCP has so much sway over the United Nations, one might think it's been a part of China since ancient times. So if you want a source that doesn't take money from the CCP, please support China Uncensored on patreon.com/China Uncensored. All it takes is as little as $1 an episode to fight the CCP and their army of propagandists. You'll also get to ask me questions I'll answer on the show. And today's question comes from David Michael White. Chris, which Chinese knockoffs would you want to personally see or have in your collection? Oh, that's an easy one, David. I would have my very own Robert Kopp, with his famous catchphrase, "I'll be back." He's the furniture of law enforcement, a futuristic Robert, Terminator Autobotic, exciting movie look, and toy. And someday I want to complete my collection with Ray Liotta and Optical Prime. If you'd like to see a bunch of other hilarious Chinese knockoff toys, check out this video. And if you want to join the China Uncensored 50-cent army on Patreon, click that orange button. Thanks for your question, David. Once again, I'm Chris Chappell. See you next time.